Hi, we are the group 4 or the D presenter, and this is our video recorded presentation. We already recorded our discussion so that you can understand our topic and discussion clearly and precisely without any interruption. So, our topic is all about the self from psychology perspective. So, first, here are the member of our group. We have here JABLA B, I myself Lastimosa Tana Alexandra P, and lastly is LEGASPI Djolian Oliver G. Before we dive through to the main topic of this discussion, we're going to talk about first what is psychology. So according to Ohio State University, psychology is a scientific study of mind and behavior. It helps people in large part because it can explain why people act the way they do. So, how can psychology help you understand yourself and know who you really are? Psychology is like what the definition said, it is the study of how people behave, think, and feel. It includes the topics such as how the brain works, how our memory is organized, how people interact in a group, and how children learn about the world. In fact, everything that concerns the human being is a concern of psychology, from the basic working of human brains to consciousness, memory, reasoning, and language, to personality and mental health, and everything about human being experience. Psychology will synchronize is synchronize it so that you as a human being will understand how to be it is being you. And for the next slide, we have here William James. So William James have really a big contribution in the community of psychology. So he is a very famous psychologist way back in his time until now, as he proposed many um, many theories uh, related about self and psychology. So he was born on the 11th of January 1842 and died at the age of 68 on 26th of August 1910. So he is the author of the book The Principle of Psychology that was published way back in 1890. He is known to be the father of American psychology. Also, he is a philosopher, psychologist, like it is related to psychology, and a university professor way back in Harvard College. In his peak years of his career. I believe it is in the year 1872 until 1876. So according to him, the self has two elements, the I self and me self. So almost 130 years ago, James introduced the distinction between me and I to the debate about the self. So uh, James is talking about the me self in the I self here, so which is going to be tackled in the next slide. So we have here a little bit quote or the famous quote coming from William James. So it quoted, "The art of being wise is knowing what to overlook." Next slide is, what is self? So self is the identity or us ourselves, our personality. So in this discussion, we're going to talk about the self as me self and the I self. So the self composed of the me as the empirical self and the I transcendental self who does the knowing rather. So I self. I self is the pure ego. It is subjective. It is the self that is aware of its own action. So it is talking about um, ourself or as ourself. We are aware what we are doing. The I self characteristically have four features. So these are a self of being the agent or initiator of behavior. So it is talking about like I believe my action have an impact to others. So that can cause an effect to the environment or the people that I am interacting with. Next is a sense of being captured. So it has the example of this. This is how I am different from everything in my environment, and I pre perce- perceive there is only one me in that certain environment. So it is like I can capture the mind of everybody. Like I am unique to others. I have like a special feature to myself that is um not not in others, like that sense, like that kind of sense. Next is a sense of continuity. So it is talking about I am the same person from day to day. So it is like you are thinking about um yesterday you're just like the same person, and then next day today and in the following days you are just you, and you are being just you. Next and lastly is a sense of awareness, about being aware. So it is like the example of I understand what is going on in me and around me, and I know I understand it. So it like being aware of like how you feel and how you um see yourself. So being conscious to yourself. So being conscious about what you do, how you behave, and how you interact to other. So that's all for the I self. Next is me self. So me self is the self that is object. It is the self that you can describe, such as physical characteristic, personalities, social roles, or relationships, thoughts, feelings. So James called it it the empirical self, because empirical is the definition as based on, concerned with, or verified by observation or experience rather than theories or pure logic. So here in myself, there are three dimensions. Here are the following: material, social, and spiritual. So material is the physical appearance, the extension of it, such as clothing, immediate family, and home. Social, in the other hand, rather, is the social skills and the significant interpersonal relationship. And lastly is spiritual. So it is the personality, the character, and the defining of values. Global versus differentiated models. So global self refers to the general values of that person place on himself or herself. So in short, global self is talking about the awareness of that person about uh, her or his values, compare or in connection to the people around her or him. And differentiated models refers to your ability to separate your own feelings and thoughts from other. So it is like how you um, um, differentiate yourself to others. So it is talking about how you interact to others and how you differentiate yourself to others. Here are 10 differentiated models of self. So here are the following. First is self-consciousness. Next is self-multiple. Self-looking glass, self as flower, self as structure, self as a creative, self as union, self as identity, self as unicorn, and lastly is self as chameleon. Self-consciousness. Self-consciousness is a heightened of self-awareness. So basically it means that our self-consciousness is really intense than normal of of being self-aware. So we are really aware of how we are doing in terms of interaction to other people. Next is self-multiple. Self-multiple is someone's role is not stop being her or him. his or her responsibilities and sense of self. So basically, it's talking about the different self or self states that we are showing to in every situation or every person that we are interacting in our daily life or so on. And for the next slide, we have Habla Jerry to continue the presentation.
Self-looking glass. Other people serve as mirror in which we can see ourselves. People who develop a sense of who they are and what to think of themselves by watching the reactions of the people in their primary group as well as those they meet throughout their lives. We see ourselves through the eyes of the other people, even to the extent of incorporating their views of us into our own self-concept. Self as a structure. The self as that which we can be an object to itself is essential, a social structure, and it arises in social experience. Self as flower. The self in this view is a flower potentially growing into full bloom. Self as a creative. Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. The self in his view is not an iceberg, nor a passive reflection, nor a flower that may grow. It is what we make it, but is somewhat atomistic. Self as union. This model indicated by the face hidden depths and reflects the notion that one may not really know something, just just the goof main skew. Presentation of the different selves acting in different roles and circumstances, which may be camouflaged and masked. Self as identity. Our self concept is our identity. It is the concept you develop about yourself that evolves over the course of your life, include aspects of your life that you have no control over. Self as unicorn. It is partly unknown, even unknowable because it is so below consciousness and in progress. Self as chameleon. Chameleon because it is multiple and mutable, adaptable, and selective in presentation. These selves may be complementary, contradictory, or conflicted. Carl Rogers, January 8, 1902 to February 4, 1987, believes that the self-concept has three different components: the view you have yourself or self-image, how much value you place on yourself or self-esteem or self-worth, what you wish you were really like, ideal self. Self-concept is defined as a totality of individuals' thoughts and feelings having references to his or her as an objective. Lifestyle, in many ways, is an outward expression of one's self-concept. Ideal self is the person that would like yourself to be. It is your concept of the best me who is worthy of admiration, idealized image of self that the individual has developed through experience and learned. Real self is the person you actually are. It is how you behave right at the moment of situation. It is who you are in reality, how you think, feel, or act at present. The importance of alignment. Rogers accentuated the need to achieve consistency between the ideal and real selves. According to Roger, if the way that I am is aligned with the way that I want to be, I will feel a sense of mental well-being or peace of mind. In other words, when your real self and ideal self are very similar, your experience congruence if it's a total opposite that is not aligned. Roger called it incongruence. High congruence leads to greater sense of self-worth and healthier productive life.
Thank you for that. Now let's proceed to multiple versus unified selves. According to William James, properly speaking, a man has many social selves, as their individuals who recognize him and carry an image of him in their mind. What William James is trying to say is that there is a version of you that exists in anyone you know. For example, your parents, your friends. Those are two different individuals, right? Now, you don't act the same around with your family. The same thing with your friends. You act more formal around with your family to portray that you are somehow innocent. Well, Roy Baumeister, on the other hand, said, but the concept of the self loses its meaning if a person has multiple selves. The essence of the selves involves integrating diverse experiences into a unity. In short, unity is one of the defining features of selfhood and identity. So Roy Baumeister is against William James' idea. The concept of the self loses its meaning if a person has multiple selves. So, if you act differently around people, well, we all know that too much is always not good for us, right? So if you act too differently among different sort of people, you may lose the sense of yourself. Like, which one is your comfortable self? Which one really is you? How should you act around when you are only yourself? Yeah? Now, let's proceed to the multiple selves. The multiple self is the concept of multiple selves suggests that individuals have different aspects of themselves that are activated in different situations or contexts. This can include different roles, identities, and sub-personalities, each with their own set of thoughts and feelings and behaviors. So it is quite similar with the multiple versus unified selves. Yeah. The unified selves, these multiple selves are believed to be natural and adaptive response to the complex and dynamic nature of human experience. In contrast, the concept of a unified self suggests that there is a core, essential self that underlies all of an individual's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. The unified self is believed to be a stable and consistent aspect of a person's identity, even in the face of changing circumstances or experiences. Now, the unified self, on the other hand, fixes the problem, which was stated by Roy Baumeister. In the unified selves, even though you have a lot of multiple selves that you use to act around various sorts of people, the unified self acts as a core personality. It is you. You know what I mean? The very definition of you which you are comfortable with. Now, the true versus false self is quite similar to that. However, there's a slight difference. True versus false self suggests that individuals may behave differently in various situations to meet social or situational expectations, which can create a sense of inauthenticity or detachment from the authentic self. Now, the slight difference is that multiple versus unified self, you may do that unconsciously. You know, like what I said earlier, you act different on your family because you may think that acting good around them and formal around them may be beneficial to your image as a family member. Now, what true versus false self suggests is that you do this consciously. You portray false feelings in order to, like, feel the people around you more comfortable. You make them feel more comfortable. But however, in doing so, you may lose the sense of inauthenticity or detachment from your authentic self. So, doing it too much, you may lose the core self. What was it called again? The unified self. Yeah, you may lose that. True versus false self. True selves, the true self represents an individual's personality, authentic and core aspects. The false selves, on the other hand, in contrast, the false self refers to the self that an individual presents to the world, which may or may not be consistent with their true thoughts and feelings. Yes, we have discussed this. The self as proactive and agentic. According to Albert Bandura, humans have the ability to act. They are able to produce experiences on their own. The main agents that drive these experiences are the following: intentionality and forethought. Intentionality is to do and act in your own free will. Intentionality enables the individual to experience his or her experiences since it is according to his or her own accord. I express my intentionality through my eagerness to do something. I never give up on something that I want, no matter how impossible it might seem to be. The forethought enables the doer of an action to anticipate the outcome of the action. It is like thinking ahead of the time. For me, the ability to look at what would be the consequences of your action is a great ability to have. This is because we must always be careful and aware of our actions, because our actions can hurt not just ourselves but the others as well, indirectly or even directly. Self-reactiveness. It is the ability of an individual to make his or her own choices and choose the right courses of action, as well as motivate and regulate their execution. With having intentions, we could come the executions of your intention, and that is where self-reactiveness comes. With self-reactiveness, we could truly express our intentions and experience our deepest desires and holistically feel our experiences. Self-reflectiveness is the ability of an individual to reflect upon oneself and the adequacy of one's thoughts and actions. In everything that we do, we must remember to reflect ourselves. We must remember to reflect to our experiences. These experiences that we have collected will make us a better person, and equipped with new knowledge, views, and opinions that would make us group not just an individual, but as a human being that is capable of change and new things. Now that is all from our report. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.